In my past life, Pablo was a distinguished young military commander, celebrated for his courage and honor. I, on the other hand, was just an ordinary woman, becoming his wife only by accident through a childhood marriage agreement. When armed kidnappers pointed their guns at both me and Zoe, he chose to save her without a second of hesitation. A bullet pierced straight through my heart, and I died at the age of 27. In this life, I initiated the divorce to set him free, choosing instead to start over and dedicate myself to international medical aid work overseas. But strangely, he now seems tormented by regret, blocking my path and begging me for another chance. Chapter 1. Julia, are you really sure about this? Conditions in the war zone are brutal. You could lose your life at any moment, my mentor warned. I nodded firmly. Don't worry, I've thought it through, I assured him. He sighed, adjusting his glasses, and pulled out a contract from his drawer. This is the agreement for the International Medical Relief Team. Once you sign, there's no turning back. Someone will come for you in a month, he added as I signed the document. Walking out of his office, I placed a hand on my slightly swollen belly, momentarily dazed. In my previous life, I married Pablo when I was just 20. He was constantly away with the military, leaving me at home to care for his parents and raise our daughter alone. Then one day, he brought home a young woman. This is Zoe. She saved my life. She's a savior to our family. Julia, please treat her well, he said. Zoe was beautiful, kind, and incredibly capable. Pablo got her a job as a secretary, and they were always seen together so much, so that many mistook them for a couple destined by fate. Even his parents adore her, far more than I could have imagined. One night, as I was doing the dishes, I accidentally overheard my mother-in-law gently holding Zoe's hand and whispering, "If only you were my daughter-in-law, you and Pablo are a perfect pair." "You just met a little too late," she added. Zoe smiled coyly, flashing me a smug look. Even our daughter became her devoted fan, firmly believing I was inferior in every way. One day, frustrated, she shouted at me, "Who still does arranged marriages? You and Dad were never meant to be. You're not good enough for him." I remember her murmuring under her breath, "I wish Aunt Zoe was my mom." Later, Zoe and I were both kidnapped by one of Pablo's enemies. When Pablo arrived at the scene, the captor forced him to choose only one of us to save. A single gunshot rang out, and my heart was shattered. I collapsed into a pool of blood, and through my fading vision, I saw him shielding Zoe with his body. Back in the present, I laid both hands over my belly. Now 2 months pregnant, I remembered my daughter's wish that I not be her mother in this life. I would grant it. I went to the hospital. When the doctor learned I wanted to terminate the pregnancy, he tried to talk me out of it. But after seeing my resolve, he gave up. In this new life, I wouldn't let anyone or anything become an obstacle to my rebirth. Soon, the day would come when Pablo would bring Zoe back. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days before returning home. Curious about my absence, my mother-in-law pressed me for answers. I lied, saying I had been assisting my professor at the hospital. She clearly disapproved. "You're already married. You should be home taking care of us, not running around the hospital. What's the use of learning those things? You'll never be a real doctor anyway," she scoffed. A woman is more virtuous the less she knows. But I remember so clearly she never said anything like that to Zoe. Chapter 2. It wasn't long before Pablo brought Zoe home again, just like in my previous life. Unlike before, I wasn't waiting at home, I was at the hospital. When I finally returned just in time for dinner, it was New Year's Eve, a night I used to host every year. But this year, unable to reach me, my mother-in-law had prepared a lavish meal on her own. "So you remember how to come back?" she muttered with visible disdain. Seeing the tension, my father-in-law gently interjected, "Come, let's eat." I sat beside Pablo, feeling oddly detached. He gestured toward Zoe and said, "This is Zoe, the woman who saved my life." I nodded silently and picked up my chopsticks. Julia, Zoe doesn't know anyone around here, so she'll be staying with us for a while. You'll treat her kindly, won't you?" he added. I picked up a piece of braised pork and placed it in my bowl, locking eyes with him. "Pablo, don't trouble Julia. From now on, I'll take care of everything. Don't you know what I'm capable of? I'll look after your parents, so well don't worry. Zoe said playfully. Oh my, what a sweet talker. I like you more and more, my mother-in-law beamed. Here, have some more fish. I bought it specially for you today, she said, placing a piece into Zoe's bowl. Pablo quickly chimed in. Mom, Zoe doesn't eat cilantro. My mother-in-law looked down and saw a bit of cilantro on the fish. Oh dear, here, take this piece instead, I'll find another one for Zoe. Watching them interact so naturally like a real family, I felt like a complete outsider. Maybe sensing the shift, Pablo reached out, picked up a shrimp, and placed it into my bowl. Julia, I'm off and away, and you've worked so hard this year taking care of the house and my parents. This shrimp is my own recipe, try it, he said. I looked at the shrimp in my bowl, then at him, feeling the situation was ridiculous. When I didn't respond, he looked puzzled. What's wrong? Pablo, I'm allergic to shrimp.
Didn't you know that?
I asked. He froze in disbelief. Breaking the awkward silence, my mother-in-law scoffed. Allergies? Nonsense. Back in the day, people would have been grateful just to have shrimp to eat. Don't ruin the New Year's spirit for everyone. The contrast in how she treated me versus Zoe couldn't have been more obvious. In my past life, I endured 5 years of silent submission, caring for Pablo's ailing mother for this man. I must have been out of my mind. I tossed my chopsticks onto the table and stood up, staring directly at my mother-in-law as I spoke each word with deliberate clarity. Mom, if you lack education, I'd be happy to enlighten you. Forcing someone to eat something they're allergic to, especially knowing it could trigger a life-threatening reaction, is considered intentional homicide. Julia, is that any way to speak to your mother? Pablo's father, who had until now pretended to be invisible, finally couldn't hold back and scolded me. Apologize to your mother immediately. I laughed coldly. My mother? What mother? My mother died long ago. And if I recall correctly, she died saving your life. My words left him stunned into silence. Without another word, he sat back down. I had no desire to continue arguing, so I turned to leave. Suddenly, Pablo grabbed my wrist. Julia, apologize, he shouted, his voice trembling with fury. I yanked my hand free and looked him straight in the eyes. What's the matter? After all this time, did you really start mistaking me for your family's live-in maid? How long has it been since the founding of New China? Did your family completely miss the reforms and opening up? Instantly, all eyes turned toward me in shock. Chapter 3. I had always treated them with excessive deference, never like this. But today, I was too angry to care, realizing just how worthless all my past efforts had been. Their stunned expressions didn't faze me. I ignored them and walked away from the table, returning to my room. Hours later, once things had calmed down, someone knocked gently at my door. I got up and opened it, finding Pablo standing there. He handed me a cup of warm milk. Julia, I just heated some milk. Please drink a little. No need. You drink it, I said, turning to close the door. He stopped it with his hand, looking at me helplessly. Stop throwing tantrums. You need to take care of yourself for the baby. We went too far today. I'm sorry, he added. Hearing him mention the baby, I instinctively glanced at my now flat belly and smiled bitterly.
Pablo.
There are fireworks outside. Can you come watch them with me? Zoe appeared behind him, pointing excitedly toward the night sky and urging him to go out. He hesitated for a moment before nodding gently at her. Okay, I'll take you to see them. Zoe, thrilled by his response, quickly put on her coat and got ready to head out. Pablo was about to leave when he turned back. Julia, do you want to come too? Zoe tugged on his sleeve with clear reluctance and whispered, Pablo, maybe it's better if Julia doesn't come. She's pregnant. The fireworks might be too loud for her. He looked at me apologetically, then nodded. She's right. I shook my head. You two go ahead, have fun. A flicker of guilt crossed his face. Then get some rest at home. Mom said it's time for your prenatal checkup. I'll go with you tomorrow morning. Before I could reply, Zoe was already pulling him excitedly toward the door. Prenatal checkup? Back in my room, I received a message from my professor. Julia, I've confirmed your registration. In 15 days, you'll join the Moritz Medical Relief Team. It's winter there now, so pack warm and be ready for emergencies. The next day, surprisingly, I slept in until 10. When I opened my door, the house was empty. I grabbed a quick bite to eat and got ready to head to the mall to buy myself a proper winter jacket. After reading my professor's message last night, I'd checked my closet and realized that for years, I'd barely bought anything for myself. I'd felt guilty that Pablo was the one earning money, and almost all the household expenses he gave me went into the family I rarely spent on myself. Thinking back now, that was foolish. Around noon, I took a taxi alone to the mall and headed straight for the clothing section. But just as I walked in, I heard a familiar voice exclaim, "This dress is so beautiful." I looked up and saw Zoe and Pablo. They were still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Zoe was holding up a form-fitting lace dress against herself. "Pablo, do I look good in this?" Pablo nodded. "You look stunning." Zoe hesitated. "Isn't it too expensive?" "It's over 8,000. Pablo smiled, pulled out a credit card, and handed it to the salesperson. "Wrap it up for me, please." The salesperson beamed and complimented Zoe. "Your husband is so good to you." It all unfolded right in front of me. Suddenly, I realized ever since I met him, I don't think he's ever given me anything. Chapter 4. It wasn't until he had finished paying and turned around to see me standing by the entrance that the smile on his face froze. "Julia, what are you doing here?" For a moment, I felt like joking with him. I looked at my watch. "Didn't you say you'd accompany me to my prenatal checkup? Since you never came home last night, I had no choice but to come find you myself." His face turned pale immediately. He hurried to explain, "Don't get the wrong idea. We stayed out late after the fireworks and didn't want to wake you, so we just stayed out all night." "Yes, Julia, please don't overthink it," Zoe chimed in. I looked at the dress in her hands. "Oh, this dress? Pablo bought it for me to celebrate my new job. He helped me get a position as his assistant. You don't mind, do you, Julia?" I could hear the thinly veiled provocation in her voice. I smiled. "Why would I mind? After all, you're his savior, it's only right." Pablo, hearing this, visibly relaxed and smiled. "I knew you'd understand, Julia." I looked at him and felt an overwhelming sense of absurdity. "I'll drop Zoe off first, then go to the hospital with you," he offered. We headed to the mall parking lot, where Zoe walked straight to the front passenger seat, opened the door, and sat down like she belonged there. Pablo started the engine, and seeing I hadn't gotten in yet, called out, "Get in." I glanced at the back seat, which was packed with shopping bags and clutter. He paused, looking confused, and began clearing out the back seat. "Oh, I forgot Pablo bought me so many things, it's all filled up," Zoe said, pretending to be modest. I told him I didn't need that much, but he insists I'm still missing this and that. "Sometimes I just can't win with him," she added in a smug, whiny tone. For a moment, even I felt a little dazed. Between the three of us, was I really the unnecessary third wheel? Once Pablo cleared the seat, he stood in front of me with an awkward expression. "Julia, after your checkup, let me take you shopping for some new things. It's almost New Year, and you should have something new too." I couldn't tell if he said that out of guilt or something else, but it didn't move me in the slightest. I opened the car door and got in. "Let's go home." On the way back, Zoe wouldn't stop chatting. Every now and then, Pablo laughed loudly at something she said. Then, realizing I was still sitting behind them, he awkwardly stifled a smile. They talked about memories only they shared, stories I had no part in. When we passed the city's amusement park, she said, "Pablo, remember when we first met? I told you I'd never been to an amusement park, and you promised you'd take me someday." With one hand on the wheel, he turned and nodded. "Of course. I'll take you when we have time. And Pablo, I want to travel. I want to see the golden mountain glowing under the sun." "All right, I'll take you." "Pablo, I want roast duck tonight." "Okay, I'll buy it for you tonight." It was in that moment I realized Pablo could actually be so tender and attentive. It was a side of him I had never seen or known. Thinking back to the excuses I made for his coldness toward me, it felt like a slap in the face. Every word they exchanged mocked me, ridiculed me for merely sitting there. Zoe turned around with a fake apologetic look. "Julia, sorry I forgot you were here. This is just how Pablo and I usually talk, don't take it the wrong way." Chapter 5. When we returned home, Pablo's parents were already back. As soon as she saw me, his mother scolded, You're pregnant and still running around everywhere. You might not care, but don't let anything happen to my precious grandchild. Pablo's father chimed in. Julia, you really should stop dreaming about being a doctor. You're not cut out for it. Stay home, raise the child, and take care of us. Enough nonsense. Pablo, changing shoes by the door, added, Yeah, Julia, listen to Mom and Dad. Stop going to the hospital. Women don't need to work. I looked past him at Zoe and asked, Oh? Then why do you keep helping Zoe get jobs? He paused and then replied, Zoe's different from you, she's more independent. And her job is as my assistant. She's with me all the time. What if I became your assistant? My question stunned everyone into silence. Their expressions varied from shock to disapproval.
What?
We're husband and wife. Wouldn't it make more sense for me to be with you every day as your assistant? Julia, stop making a scene, Pablo said helplessly. Making a scene? Am I the one making a scene? Julia, are you angry with me because I gave birth to Pablo? If you dislike me so much, I should leave, Zoe suddenly said, her once calm voice breaking into tears. She bent down to grab her purse and walked toward the door. Pablo and his mother rushed to stop her. Zoe, don't go. Pablo, I can't be the reason your family falls apart. I know she hates me, so it's better if I leave. Julia didn't mean that, right? Pablo turned to me, hoping I would agree. I smiled. That's exactly what I meant. Pablo, it's either Zoe or me in this house. He stood frozen in disbelief. What's wrong with you? You weren't like this before, he said, disappointed. I didn't want to waste another word. Pablo, let's get divorced. Since you can't let go of Zoe, I'll return your freedom. With a loud crash, Pablo's father smashed a teacup onto the floor. Nonsense. If you two divorce, what will the neighbors say about us? Let her go. I'd love to see where she can go now. She's pregnant, no man will want her after this, his mother shouted while grabbing Zoe's hand in support. Her endless chatter was dizzying. Pablo, hearing that, seemed to agree. Yeah, Julia, where could you even go after leaving us? Don't talk out of anger. You're still carrying our child and be so impulsive. He reached out to pull me, but I stepped back. The child? Are you still dreaming of me continuing your family line without complaint and serving your selfish family for the rest of my life? Even slaves weren't treated as poorly as I've been, right? I've already had an abortion, forget it. I pulled the abortion report from my bag and tossed it at them. His mother frantically picked it up, her face turning pale as she read it. Clutching her chest, she cried out, Julia, how could you abort my grandchild?
Why?
Because the baby was in my womb. Then I turned to Zoe, who suddenly looked fragile. You all want a grandchild so badly? Then why don't you have Zoe give one to the family? Julia, don't talk nonsense. Zoe and I don't have that kind of relationship, Pablo snapped. Oh, I forgot. I accidentally overheard before that Miss Zoe can't get pregnant. In fact, she can't have children for you at all. In a past life, I'd come across Zoe's medical report by chance. She stared at me in disbelief. How did you know that? Her mother-in-law broke into sobs. Seeing her reaction, both Pablo and his father finally realized I wasn't lying. Snatching the report, Pablo opened his mouth but was speechless for a long time before finally saying, You really did it, overwhelmed with rage. Pablo's father collapsed to the floor, slamming his cane down as he lamented, A calamity has befallen our family. Chapter 6. Amid the chaos, I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the door. Pablo chased after me and blocked the exit. Julia, can you stop causing such a scene? He snapped. We can overlook the abortion for now. His audacity almost made me laugh. Pablo, did I spoil you too much in the past? Is that why you've become so shameless? I retorted. Right now, I'm the one asking for a divorce. I'm not begging you for forgiveness. I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared beforehand and threw them at him. I've already signed. You do the same. Hurry up. I want nothing more to do with you or your family ever again. It seemed only then he realized I was serious about leaving. He tried to stop me again. I shoved him aside and snapped, Pablo, are you sick? Did you marry me just because my mother saved your father? You never loved me, so why are you pretending now? Besides, Once we're divorced, you and Zoe can finally be together officially, right? Julia, you misunderstood, he protested. Zoe and I are only close because she once saved my life. She has no family in this world, and I feel it's my duty to take care of her. That's all. Just then, Zoe ran out and stood behind him, having heard everything. Her face gradually turned pale. Pablo turned around and saw her, clearly stunned. Pablo, I'd respect you more if you just admitted you're the kind of man who eyes other options while still eating from his own plate, I said sarcastically. If you don't sign the divorce papers, I'll sue. Rest assured, I will get rid of you. Seizing the moment, I quickly hailed a taxi and left. I checked into a hotel for a temporary stay. With less than 2 weeks before my departure, this short time away finally gave me a breath of freedom and the chance to do the things I enjoyed. I decided to make up for everything I had lost. I found an island and decided to go there alone for a while. Once everything was packed, I headed to the airport with my luggage. Before boarding the flight, I made sure to block every single member of Pablo's family. A good vacation should never be ruined by them. I enjoyed the island for over a week. It wasn't until I received a call from my mentor that I realized I had only 2 days left before joining the rescue team. He had already booked my return flight and asked me to meet him at the hospital. Chapter 7. After dropping my luggage off at the hotel, I rushed to the hospital. Right at the entrance, a hand stopped me. I turned and saw it was Pablo. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened in surprise. Julia, it's you. You don't know how long I've been looking for you. You blocked me, and I couldn't contact you, he said, lowering his head with a bitter smile. I realized that without being able to call you, I had no other way to find you. I don't even know if you have friends. Seems like I really didn't care enough about you in the past. I was in a hurry and didn't want to waste a single second with him. I shook off his hand. Pablo, did you forget the divorce papers I gave you? Stop pretending you care. You know exactly how you treated me. I turned to leave. He followed close behind. Julia, give me another chance, please. My mom is in the hospital now, and taking care of her these days made me realize how hard it was for you all those times they were sick. You had to run back and forth, caring for her, and then cooking for Dad. I finally understand how difficult it was to maintain this household. Between his words, I caught his real message. Seeing how thin he'd become, I could guess that ever since his free nanny left, all the burdens had fallen on him and he was struggling. Every word he spoke sounded like a desperate cry for me to come back before he completely collapsed. I smiled. What's wrong? Zoe hasn't been helping you out at all. His face darkened instantly. Zoe, she hasn't been feeling well lately. I nodded. She's clever. If I'd known better, I'd have faked being sick too and saved myself from being treated like your family's free maid all these years. He had nothing to say in return. But I know you too well. You came back here today because you can't stand the idea of me suffering. Pablo, I know you think I only brought up divorce out of anger, but I've done a lot of thinking these past days. I promise, from now on, I'll take better care of myself. So tell me, do you really think we can get back together? I couldn't hold it in anymore. I shouted, Pablo, stay away from me. Stop being so full of yourself. I'm sick to death of your entire family. If you still want to save some shred of dignity, get out of my way. I didn't come here for you, or anyone related to you. The world doesn't revolve around your family. I don't care if your parents live or die. If you have a conscience, then take care of them yourself. If not, leave them to rot in the street. Maybe he had never seen this side of me before. He stood there, dumbfounded for several minutes. In disbelief, he asked, Then, why did you come to the hospital? Suddenly, a hint of relief appeared on his face as he added, Stop fantasizing about being a doctor. You don't become one just by going to the hospital every day. Just then, a stern voice sounded behind me. Julia, why haven't you come in yet? We need to confirm your information one last time for the rescue team. I turned and saw my professor and his assistant standing behind me. I nodded and apologized, Coming, Professor. Then I turned to Pablo one last time and warned him coldly, Keep your distance. Don't bother me again. Chapter 8. Rescue team? What rescue team? He asked insistently. What business is it of yours? I shot back with a roll of my eyes and ran over to Professor Hu. After verifying my documents one final time, the professor handed me my medical aid badge and said solemnly, "Julia, on behalf of the International Medical Relief Teamway, welcome you." The next morning, a young man knocked on my hotel door. "Doctor, I've come to pick you up," he said. I followed him to the plane. And from that day forward, I began 3 years of medical relief work in a war-torn region of the Middle East. During that time, I witnessed countless tragedies and miracles of survival. Every time I saw a patient successfully rescued, I felt grateful and lucky that fate had given me a second chance at life and that I hadn't wasted it on things that were never worth it. 3 years later, I received a call from my professor. He said, "There's an opportunity to study in Germany for 4 years. Would you be interested?" I looked back at the ruins and the wounded. My medical skills still weren't that advanced, and Germany had one of the best healthcare systems in the world. Studying there would certainly improve my capabilities. I nodded in agreement. "I'll go." Just as we were about to hang up, he hesitated. I found it strange. "Professor, is there something else?" "Julia, there's something I never told you. The day after you left, your ex-husband came looking for me. He asked where you had gone, and I told him. He seemed agitated, insisting it was impossible that you'd really left him. He made a scene in my office for a long time and even broke a few of my things. In the end, a woman named Zoe came and dragged him away. At first, I thought he was just heartbroken over your departure. But a few months later, he was openly dating that woman. I thought that was the end of it, so I never mentioned it to you. But just a few days ago, I heard some big news," he added, now sounding a bit gossipy. "That Zoe, she was arrested. And Pablo has been suspended and is now under investigation too." "What?" I was stunned. He continued slowly. "Zoe is a traitor. She approached Pablo with ulterior motives from the beginning. The whole family was played for fools. Pablo didn't just lose his job, could be facing serious penalties. Thank goodness you divorced that fool when you did. I remember it in my past life before I died. None of this had happened. Had Zoe succeeded back then?" I shivered. Thankfully, this time she was exposed. As for Pablo, he got exactly what he deserved. After finishing my assignment, I flew to Germany to begin my studies. 4 years isn't long, but it's not short either. I lived each day to the fullest and truly learned so much. The day I completed my studies, I received an award from the Academy. They told me I was an outstanding doctor. In the blink of an eye, 7 years had passed since I left. My professor invited me to return home. He was getting old and said, "Julia, you're my best student. I'll feel at peace handing over the hospital to you." Chapter 9. On my first day back after the staff meeting, my assistant walked me to my new office. As we passed the inpatient department, a familiar voice suddenly called out, surprised, "Julia?" I turned to see the astonished face of my former mother-in-law. "Is it really you?" she cried out, trying to approach me, full of emotion. "Where have you been all these years? Why didn't you contact us? We've been looking for you everywhere." My assistant stepped in, trying to hold her back. "Ma'am, please calm down." She shoved the assistant's hand away. "She's my daughter-in-law. It's none of your business." Suddenly, a man in a security uniform ran up behind her and restrained her gently. "Mom, you just had surgery. You can't get worked up." Our eyes met, and I recognized the worn-out man in front of me was Pablo, the man I hadn't seen in 7 years. The moment he saw me, he immediately looked down and turned away. But his mother kept yelling, insisting I was her daughter-in-law. My assistant firmly said, "Ma'am, this is the director of our hospital, not your daughter-in-law. Please show some respect." Hearing that, Pablo stiffly turned back to face me. "Julia, you really became a doctor," he said. I nodded to my assistant to step aside. Then I walked up to Pablo and extended my hand. "It's been a long time." He hesitated for a moment, then smiled bitterly and took my hand. "It has, director." He took his mother back to her hospital room. Afterward, we sat together in the hospital cafe. He told me that his father had passed away the previous year, at a time when his mother was in the hospital, and he had been detained for questioning, leaving his father alone at home. He fell down the stairs. No one found him until much later, when a neighbor noticed something was wrong and called the police. Ever since then, my mother's health has declined. She recently had surgery, but the doctors say it's unlikely she'll recover. Her mind isn't clear anymore. Sometimes she gets confused and forgets things. That's why she kept calling you her daughter-in-law. Please don't be offended. After saying that, he lowered his head and buried his face in his hands. Julia, I'm really sorry. If only I had lived properly with you from the start. If only I hadn't brought Zoe home. Would things be different now? I took a sip of my coffee and replied, Pablo, the only reason you regret how you treated me is because your life is in shambles now. Deep down, you don't truly feel guilty for what you did. With that, I stood up to leave. If that's the case, then we have nothing more to talk about. I've already paid for the coffee. He quickly tried to stop me.
No, Julia.
I really do feel guilty. I don't even have the right to ask for forgiveness. I only brought you here today to say I'm sorry in person. I smiled. I don't need your apology. Pablo, you're not that important to me anymore. After leaving you, I discovered that there's so much more to do in this world. Back then, I was a fool trapped in a tiny world, satisfied with the crumbs of happiness you gave me. In your house, I lost myself. But thankfully, I chose not to stay. And because of that, I created something new and beautiful in my life. Without waiting for another word, I walked out of the cafe without looking back. Pablo, we're no longer walking the same road. Let the past remain in the past because I've already embraced a whole new life.